Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Next, any announcements or comment statements from town board members?
I actually have something, Darren.
Cynthia?
Um, Now that the state of emergency has been lifted and we're presumably going back to a more normal lifestyle, I want to take a couple of minutes just to thank our town family. Unlike other towns, not only in Saratoga County, but I think probably nationwide, we kept the lights on. We managed to stay open, and that's because of the dedication of our employees. Our town clerk actually was probably busier than ever issuing marriage licenses and dog licenses and things like that from other municipalities that were closed. Alyssa in the community center kept the food pantry running. We actually had a summer camp that was had one little glitch, but managed to get through it. Building and planning staff continued to issue building inspections, or building permits and do inspections so that projects could move forward. Jamie kept us all zoomed up. Our maintenance staff kept us clean and sanitized. The assessment actually completed a town-wide reval during the pandemic. And I just want to say to everybody that works for the town of Malta, I'm so proud to be part of a team that got us through this pandemic and kept us open. So thank you.
Here. Thanks, Cynthia. Absolutely. I think all the members of the board second that very vigorously. So thank you very much to our town family. You did
And
a
if I left
fantastic
anybody
job.
out, thank them for us. Too. I mean, Rogers, kept the roads passable.
Absolutely. They do.
Yeah,
I have
Roger, I gotta
something
say,
also.
I haven't seen any snow on the road in weeks. And I don't know how you've done it, but way to go. Good job.
That's because he wants a salt shack.
Um,
I have.
Go ahead,
something
Greg.
else
Sorry.
Afterwards. Last Friday evening, I had the opportunity to go to the stock car races here in Malta. And I was really impressed. I mean, I have never gone there since 1990. I have never been. And I will had the opportunity to go with Roger, sit with Roger, get all dirty on my cap. But I was absolutely impressed. People drive down from miles away, way up in the Adirondacks every Friday night. They had drivers there that drove up from North Carolina to race. It was a fantastic, fun event. The food was good. And the whole thing was reasonable. The other thing I have is that, as Cynthia stated, that the COVID doors are closed. And Saturday evening, I went out with Sheila, my wife, and we heard Madison Vandenberg play with her cousin as a fundraiser for his daughter who was ill. They did a fantastic job for 3 hours. We sat there in the sun and heard great music. Thank God COVID's over us. The other issue that I have is I continue to get complaints about Malta, the Malta Gardens out there. I understand it. I understand it's owned by a separate entity, but it's time we change how we approach it. It's starting to affect their assets being trailers, but they all own them and they're very, very upset. The town has to change how they handle it because Simon has not addressed it adequately. And it's starting to affect their resale of the property that they own. And I just want to state that very clearly, that we have to change how we are handling that situation. Just like anybody else here in town. Thank you.
Thanks, Craig. Anyone else?
I had a brief update on the economic development front. We had a meeting last week. I know Mark and Cynthia were able to join us, so thank you for joining us for that meeting. As many of you may know, we've been working through the Next Wave Community study program through Prosperity Partnership. And recently, Prosperity Partnership's Executive Director, Shelby Schneider, has announced her resignation, is going to be stepping down. They're not going to have the staff on hand to be able to complete that study as originally anticipated. So what they had come back to the committee with was the proposal that the Prosperity Partnership has some grant funds that they would be bringing in an outside consultant to be able to continue on that work and be able to complete that study over the next couple months for the committee. So we did have a good update on that discussion. It sounds as though the Prosperity Partnership will be having an RFP ready to go out almost imminently. Again, it won't cost the town anything. This is just completing the project that was started and then, hit the snags with COVID, is probably about 2/3 complete at this point and should be able to now be able to be brought across the finish line with a little bit of consultant support and grant funds that Prosperity Partnership already has at its disposal. So hopefully we'll have some good input shortly. I do have a couple documents that was shared with the committee that I'll send over to Jen to be able to get up to circulate to the town board and get up on the town website, just so everybody can kind of see what the thinking is at this time, and some of the input that has been gathered to this point that would be guiding that RFP process to go to the consultant. And happy to answer any questions anyone might have.
So maybe, on that, we'll talk to Steve maybe next week about whether we have to revise any of the resolutions or agreements or anything to make that happen.
I think the only thing that might need to be done is there may be an effective date that might need to be, because we're well past any effective dates on it. So there may just need to be an adjustment there.
Okay.
But I think that would be the smart thing, is just ask Steve if we need to adjust anything. And I think from the Prosperity Partnership end, I don't think there's any issues, but
Okay.
if we feel we need to do anything there, we can certainly
Okay.
adjust.
Sounds good.
One more thing, Darren, if I
Sure.
haven't used my allotted time.
Oh,
A quick update on everybody's favorite topic, the comp plan. We now.
A never-ending subject.
We now, I believe, have a draft plan that is, I want to say 99% complete. The committee has not seen it yet. We're waiting for Jamie or planning staff to review it and make any changes that they want to make. And then hopefully the committee will have time to review it. We're hoping to have a meeting sometime in July, and probably be the end of July. As you know, it's hard to schedule stuff in the summer. And then hopefully a presentation before the board in the fall. It's taken way longer than any of us expected. There was that pesky pandemic. And then there were staff changes at Chazen that also set us back. And I know everybody's anxious to get this thing buttoned up, and hopefully we'll actually be able to do that within the near future.
sounds good.
Darren,
Yeah.
I'm having a hard time hearing folks with these panels up.
Oh, yeah.
A couple things. One is it strikes me that this next wave community evaluation of where we should be emphasizing growth and development in our town should be completed before we complete our comp plan update. It would seem to be kind of backwards to do it otherwise, to fix our plan and then determine what our vision for our economic future would be. And secondly, I don't want to bog the process down, but with the Prosperity Partnership, we kind of knew, who was going to be doing the work when we entered into the contract. And I would ask the partnership give us at least some input into the consultant selection process, because in fact, they're going to be really doing work for us. I don't want to, get too much in the middle of it, but I would hope that there would be some consultation here with you, Darren, and perhaps the whole town board before a consultant is finally selected, because they're going to be working essentially to do work for us. Thank you.
Yeah, that sounds reasonable. Is that what Shelby had in mind?
Yeah,
Tim?
I think to the second point, I think, John, I think you're spot on with that. To the first point regarding the timing, I think when you take a look at the documents, you might feel a little bit more comfortable when you kind of get an idea of what's being thought about there and how it aligns with the comp plan. But we'll definitely keep that in mind. Let's make sure we get the timing right and make sure everything's in the right alignment there. So want to make sure we do it the right way.
I apologize because I'm having a little bit of a hard time hearing on the issue of timing of when the next wave community plan is to be finished versus when the comp plan is to be finished. Was there something that I missed about that? Is there a different point of view on that?
So I think the comp plan is going to be finished in 2018, right? But no,
Yeah.
we're the next wave communities plan we're expecting is it's a matter of weeks. It's imminently close
Okay.
to
all
being
right,
completed. We're not anticipating that this is a 6 or 8 month.
Okay, all right.
Unfortunately, it was like we got through all the input portion, and it was just now about to get to the crunch time of the staff work, and the staff is leaving.
Okay.
So
Thanks for clarifying.
I apologize if I wasn't clear on that. Sorry.
Apparently that's the story of our lives.
Darren, if I could just real
Sure,
quickly,
Mark.
after I turn on my microphone. No, just a shout out to Roger, his crew, Terry and his crew, everyone and anyone that's got to work outside in this heat as it was today. It's difficult. So thank you for still doing what you guys do and keeping our town looking good and safe as well as everything else. So stay cool. Hopefully we'll get a break in the next few days.
Hope so. Absolutely. Thanks, Roger, Terry, and everybody. Anything else? Okay, we'll be talking to some of the department heads about some of the items that are going to come up on the agenda. But before that, if any of the department heads have anything to say preliminarily.
Alyssa, what's the status of Community Day? Are we having Community Day? Yeah. Hey, the other thing is the T signs at the disc golf course make the course much easier to navigate. Yeah.
Did we miss the 10th deadline for that? Oh, okay. Okay. Okay, comments or questions from town residents? Would anyone like to address the board? Yes, ma'am. Yeah, that'd be great.
Good evening. You can probably hear me without the microphone. I've been told I'm very loud, so hopefully everybody can hear me. My name is Tracy DeRegan, and I'm here representing my neighbors and friends and family up on Nelson Avenue Extension. I've lived there for 24 years, and one of the benefits of COVID, which there are few, was that everyone was out walking. So I got the opportunity to talk to many of my neighbors on Nelson Avenue, and the biggest concern we have is that there is no posted speed limit on our street. I have 3 children. We taught them how to drive, which was scary enough, but to have them pull out of our driveway onto a street where people drag race their motorcycles. I myself have witnessed people starting at the beginning of our street, revving their engines, doing a loop around Nelson Avenue and Manning Road, getting it back to the bottom of Nelson Avenue, switching drivers and driving by again. My biggest fear now is, and I have a letter and a petition signed by my neighbors. I have a copy for each of you. That would have been my teacher and me. My biggest fear now is we now have 3 businesses on our street, which is wonderful. We have Ballet's Flowers and Gardens. We have the Christmas Tree Farm. And we also have the farm. Dave Avenarius has done a great job building that farm up. What scares me is Dave also has his son helping him on the farm. And Levi is a wonderful kid. And I watch him drive the tractors, and it's so cool to watch him working with his dad to bring that farm back to where it should be and can be. And I live in fear of hearing a report of something happening to him because people can't slow down. We have people passing the tractors at high rates of speed on our street. So what we're asking, and we're hoping that the board will support us, we know it's a county road. It is County Route 64. But I've been researching on how to get this to happen. And I was advised to bring a letter and petitions to my town board first. And we're asking for your help in posting the speed limit to 40 on our street so that it is safe for our children. When we moved there might have been 10 houses on Nelson Avenue Extension. And now with the addition of the houses on Saratoga Farms, we have over 24. So the population of our street has grown. We have a lot more kids out riding their bikes and hanging out with their families. And I just would hate for something to happen. We also have a lot of deer. So if somebody were to hit the deer at a high rate of speed, that would be awful too. So I wrote a letter that included all that. But we would really appreciate, and there are about 28 signatures on here from my neighbors. We would appreciate your help in helping us get the speed limit posted to 40 miles per hour on Nelson Avenue Extension. So thank you for listening to me, and I hope that we can count on your help.
Thanks very much, Tracy. Can we have those?
Forgive my ignorance. Is the speed limit currently 40 and you want signs posted, or you'd like it
It's
reduced?
50,
Okay.
yeah, it's 55.
So it's
but-
assumed
So,
it's
I mean, it's
55
55
then, right?
Okay.
By
Yeah.
default.
Supposedly it's 55.
Got
Right.
it. Okay.
There are days when it's.
That means 65, right?
Thanks.
Well, on a good day.
Yeah. No, that
On a
feels
good day.
Thank you.
Thank you. Tell me what your address is.
I'm right between the farms. So the Christmas Tree Farm is here. Dave's farm is here on the gray house with the maroon trim. That's where the community dining is.
We're next to the old brick farmhouse. She's right next door to it.
Okay.
Thank you.
All righty. Thank you.
I would just hasten to add, there's, similar concerns on Rowley Road as well, which is more of a straightaway and a drag strip. I think you may well see a similar petition from there soon.
Okay. Any other comments from town residents? Anyone in the room? Okay, Jamie? Kathy, how you doing?
I am well. I'm well, staying cool.
Good.
Just a note out there to all the seniors, if you need a fan, an air conditioner, a cool place to go, please notify the town clerk or call me. We want to make sure you all stay safe. It's very, very hot out there. And again, the town has done such a great job during the pandemic, taking care of the seniors. I want to especially thank the town for opening up the town offices for our July and August meetings. So that's about it.
All righty. Thanks very much, Kathy. Anyone else, Jamie? Okay, we'll have another comment section later in the meeting. Okay, the first item on the agenda tonight is the Luther Forest Athletic Fields Improvement Project. And thanks very much for coming. So we just have a little discussion on that. As you know, we've had, the thing analyzed by LA Group, and they've come up with a lot of options with the prices, and the town board has been considering all these and trying to figure out, the right way to go. And we appreciate your coming in here to answer some questions that the board may have. So with that, do you have anything you'd like to say preliminary to any questions? Either one? Any one of you? Patty.
Sorry, what we did see on there was any mention of a new mower. And originally that was a point contention down saying the age of our current mower and the use of our current mower in addition to the new soccer field that was inherited that
Who
Yeah,
was
this money
saying
is
that?
capital improvements.
Where did that come from? I've not heard that before. Oh, here it is.
Yeah, the original grant that we lost.
Oh, the one from a few years ago with the batting cage as well. Yeah.
We did discuss this the other day with the mower. I mean, it's not part of this grant, but we've certainly been discussing the need, for the mower there. So, yeah, we get the point, definitely.
Are you able to muddle through this season so that we can talk about it at budget time? Okay. Yeah. Yeah, no, these are all
Yeah.
capital improvements.
Yeah, capital.
So, I mean, what we'd love to hear your ideas about these various options in here. Clearly we have some that are, part of the grant that, board may have to do. Obviously, the lights for the field, obviously the service upgrade for the electric. And the other ones are the scoreboards, and the bleachers. So, those may be included, and it may be that, the board decides that the best way to go for the time being is to limit it to those items. But we'd love to hear your input on that. So, Gary and Patty, we'd love it if you can step up to the mic and kind of give us your ideas. That'd be great.
One thing that would help me would be to talk about actually what you're trying to accomplish programmatically, as opposed to just saying,
Well, John, I
you
can
know,
speak
like-
to that in the
okay.
sense of, my goal is for, retiring from school as a teacher, that facilitate a rec program for the town. And then also accommodate Global Foundries, because we're having.
I think Kathy, you're not muted. Oh.
There we go.
Sorry.
Jamie, shut that down.
So my goal is to have a rec program for youth soccer, right there at the town. Build it like part of like camps and stuff like that, summer, part of what the town does, help facilitate the growth and help with all the planning and doing it as a volunteer. And then also accommodate the teams that Global has during the summer. This, right now, it's hard to get all their teams on without lights. So I'll try and make that more.
Have they been playing this summer?
They probably will. I haven't contacted
Oh, okay.
lately, but I'm sure they will. They always
Yeah.
do. So they wait till the last minute.
Plus, I think that's interesting. Like, Melissa, have we ever talked about having a soccer camp?
Yeah.
You guys have,
Several times.
yeah, because that's the first I've heard of it, and I think
Well, no,
that's
it's
an
just
interesting idea. Yeah,
Lights is
Yeah.
key. That's what makes part one.
Yeah.
Lights.
yeah.
So that's my goal is to
You're
bring that to the town.
on the soccer side, you're at capacity then field wise.
It's right now, I brought Andrew, he's the vice president of the club, because he knows the number. I think we have close to 300 to 350 kids trying out Tuesday and Wednesday. Like the growth is almost. The numbers are, like, I don't know what it was. That's just, John, that's for travel soccer. That's the club team. That's not all the other programs. We have sandlot, we have mini kickers, we have goalkeeping camp, we have a youth camp. So that's just an addition, just the amount of people that are joining the club.
And with that, you're already at capacity field wise.
Yes.
Okay.
We're packed. If you go there, the place is packed.
One thing, and you'll forgive me, but I think you'll understand that is, in focus for me is how many of these folks are from Malta. I totally get that, especially with a club program, you cannot exclude kids from adjoining communities and have good, strong club programs. I totally get that. But, the priority for me is to provide athletics for Malta kids.
I went through the numbers actually, and it's amazing. A lot of parents when they register don't always click on Malta, but I know the roads that they live on that are a part of the Malta community. So a lot of times the numbers are a lot higher than reported.
Right, they say Boston Spa when they really live in
Yes.
Malta.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and-
I recommended to everybody that they add the town of on all the registration forms so we can get a better accurate count.
Gary, what percentage would you guess it to be?
We're consistently at 22 to 24% if we look at the past years.
I did it like over the weekend when I was driving to Ohio.
Mhm.
And all the number, like depending on the age group for the have signed up, it's either 30 to 40%. And I have the actual numbers. I did that right while I was driving. And then I Googled like some of the streets. Like I knew like Brownell Road, guy down the street. He didn't write, he wrote Boston Spa, but I know
Right.
that's town of Malta. So I knew some of the roads. I know some of the roads from bringing my kids over to the Luther Forest.
I mean, I really am grateful for the information, but I was really taken aback by the 22% number. I would have thought it would have been much higher. And
It's 30 to 40%, John. I could send you the.
no,
email.
on the softball side.
Oh, that's-
Yeah.
Well, I think too is, I can't just say why that, I think it just depends on age group. I think you're not, like, sometimes you have the rec program, but then you have the travel. So a lot of kids, when they get to travel, sometimes go to different higher travel league teams.
Understand.
So they leave Boston Spa.
Right.
Malta, and go to.
And
different-
it's important to have that, right? For kids that are exceptional athletes, they have opportunities to progress. But for me, the priority is having a place for every kid who wants to play the sport to be able to play it here in Malta. And that's a priority for me in terms of where we spend our money. And I'm not sure that that's really what's going on right now, because we have this huge investment, which is, they're great facilities, but I'm not sure that they're really being made available on as broad a basis as I had thought they were.
What, John, like, how would you make them broader?
A rec program,
Right, okay.
right?
Sure, Andrew.
We have never cut a kid.
Right.
So any kid who's come in to play, we purposely do that. We'll go 3-4. It's been a struggle the last year or two because absolutely all our volunteers. But that's part of our motto. Is everyone we have a place for every kid to play best.
Yep.
So they have that.
How do we get our Malta kids though? Because we're not.
I think we're higher.
Well-
We did an informal poll, we're like 50%.
I have the numbers, John. I could send. them to
Okay.
you, But it's, most people don't write town of Malta.
Right.
Like,
Yeah,
that's-
I mean, I totally understand, because it's much easier when you have a school district that's really kind of centralized in your community, because that is a focal point for, recreation programs as well. And we're disadvantaged that way. But I really feel that when we're spending millions of dollars and only 22% of the kids on the softball side, are
I
from
think
Malta.
they said, usually, John, so right now, when I send out my web blasts are through BART. through
Right.
BART. So a lot of it's gone through that. And then with the Capital District Youth Soccer Program, if I run any camps, it's run through that. So if we did some blasts of the softball program through the town, I think we could fill those numbers up.
Yeah, I don't know what demand is there. I mean, I just
And
want
it's
to,
huge.
yeah, I mean, within Malta, how many kids are there that would play that aren't playing? I don't know what it is,
Well, some kids are
but-
playing softball, but not playing.
right?
Or
No, I
soccer,
understand.
not playing.
Right,
Well,
I
and also it sounds like you've done a little bit of a data scrub on the soccer side, but maybe not as much of a scrub on the
So
softball
are
side.
most of the Biscotti's Boston Spa students? So my guess would be that's probably higher also based on addresses.
Yeah,
And
it could be that.
And I personally am not that concerned about that. I mean, we're providing recreation for the
Community.
greater Malta area, let's
We
say.
do
I mean, my
advertise in the
kids
school district,
Were Boston
so,
Spa and they went to Bark and
yeah.
yeah,
And we-
so-
we try to do equal
Yeah.
advertising. We go through the school district and,
right,
so it's not like we're not including, Malta.
right.
No, I'm not being critical. I'm just telling you what my position is. To be asked to spend millions of dollars when only 22% of the kids using the fields are from Malta, that doesn't work for me.
Well, I think the point that's being made though here is that 22% is, I don't think there's a lot of confidence that that's a real number.
Well, why were we given these numbers
Yeah.
if they weren't accurate?
Because every time they register, John, there's 300 to 400, there's probably 300 to
No,
500.
I'm talking about on the softball side.
Well,
Yeah.
that's,
They
it's the
just-
same thing, the registration forms, we're taking what they put down as either Boston Spa or Malta or Stillwater or Saratoga, as their city.
So we don't know how many kids are from Malta then. That we shouldn't
No.
count this 55 number as accurate. then.
Well, do they put their addresses in there?
Yes.
Their street addresses?
I took the time when we drove from Boston Spa, we drove to Ohio this weekend. I was going through the addresses.
And you didn't do that while you were actually driving.
Yes, I did.
Uh-oh.
So I think, I honestly think, I would guess that if Miss Scotty's did the same thing, you'd end up with a similar result.
Is there a
So-
reason not to do that?
What?
Give us accurate data?
I mean, it's all compiled in the Excel spreadsheet, so as soon as someone gives me a data dump, we can figure it all out.
I mean, I could probably look at them and eyeball it, knowing the streets
Yeah,
in Malta
that's what I-
based on, yeah.
I mean, I could definitely take care of that.
Yeah, like I say, I'm not really as concerned about that. I think,
Nor
we're
am I.
serving kids from,
I think a lot of the businesses, at least on the softball side, a lot of the businesses in Malta get a lot of business. If
Right.
anybody's been there for our softball tournaments, they know what happens. And
right, so that's a good thing to
Yeah.
note,
Yeah.
that it's a
That's
benefit to the
another
local
The Hyatt was
businesses.
packed last week and it's going to be packed next weekend
And
as a
that's where the
result.
lights come in too, because we can expand our tournaments
Yeah.
and have more teams if we have longer hours, especially in the fall, because in the fall you can't play on Friday nights. So, I mean, we could have 4 games going on Friday nights. So for us, it's very important to get the lights to expand.
Is that important for local play or is it important to attract tournaments? Because I've heard different information on that. When I saw the lights thing, I'll be honest with you, we've been asking for funding for salt storage facility, a members item, which we really need. And next thing you know, at the last minute, it turned right before election day, it turned into lights for a ball field. And that strikes me as kind of coincidental. But the,
rec program?
Yes,
Oh,
we
yeah.
definitely need that. That's-
See,
yeah.
Where we have
Well, let me
a lot
just
of time.
finish my,
We're putting too many kids on a team.
right, no, what, and then I called someone who I have great confidence in, in the softball area. And I said, are these lights really important to attracting, a state tournament? Answer, no.
No, we're not concerned. We're concerned about growing the program in the town. We don't
Right.
care about the state tournament.
the lights
Okay.
That's
are-
the least of our.
The lights have nothing to do with the
Yeah,
state
the
tournament.
lights have nothing. They play the games during the day.
Right.
The
Yeah.
state tournaments, they
Right.
never play
Oh,
at night.
okay.
Right.
All right.
Another one of
One
the
has
things that
nothing to
I've
do with the other.
been concerned about just in general about the field usage and I'm hoping that lights might help this is expanding the use to other groups besides even just youth. I mean, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems like if we had lights, we would have adult softball leagues that would be able to play on times that,
Yeah.
do you get requests for adult leagues to play
We
or?
have in the past. They
But
do
we
a-
don't have lights, so we can't provide them the field.
They also do
That's the
a
problem.
lot
Yeah.
of damage
Yeah.
to fields.
Well, we're
Yeah.
fine with that. 'Cause we can always
They do?
spend money-
Yeah.
spend money to
But-
repair that.
They
Yeah,
leave,
because
they
if-
leave
'cause if we're
divots
gonna-
when
if
they
we're gonna
fall
spend-
down, the old guys do. Is that-
If we're gonna spend $1 million, I'd like to make sure that we're using, expanding access to
And
other
that's why we
groups.
built that one field that's so much larger. It's
Right.
an adult size field.
Okay,
Correct, that was the main.
But they would play later after our rec programs are done, which would,
Yeah.
lights would be important.
I don't want to get us bogged down with this tonight, because really what we're here to talk about, I believe, is the money that we have, but I really still would like to sometime have a workshop with the MAA, because I read through your bylaws and the resolution that established it, and there's just questions that I really don't understand about, like your fee structure. We've got incorporation fees, we've got membership fees, we got dues and assessments, and none of those are really defined in the stuff that I saw. So like I say, and your financial stuff that you provided is not, it's hard to see where your money's coming from. And like I say, not criticizing you at all, because I know you're a group of volunteers and you know,
It would take it.
I've,
Hour, we could explain
Yeah.
everything easily.
but again, I don't want to do that tonight. I'd rather, if that's amenable with the rest of the board, I really would like to sometime in the near future have a workshop where we just get together and.
Can
we're
we bring
just
them
doing
in,
that.
Darren, as part of the budget process here in the late summer and fall, and we can
Okay.
run through
Yeah,
that?
I don't
that,
think
that
that's a bad
sounds good.
idea,
Are you generally available in the early morning?
I am.
Real
I'm
early.
working from home now, so I
Yeah.
can be more easily. 'cause
Well,
I'm-
this is in October.
Yeah.
They
I mean,
start.
Okay.
In general, yeah.
Okay.
I'm staying home forever, apparently. so.
I got a question for you.
Yeah, baby. Is that good or bad?
What are your priorities going forward? Where would
I mean,
you want to expand? Is it the lights? Is it the parking? Is it the bleachers? Is it the,
Yeah, we sort of,
if you had to do 1, 2, 3, 4?
Well, obviously, electricity is gonna be the first one. the power.
Exactly.
electricity, lights for both softball and soccer.
Okay.
We would love the scoreboards because that's very important for the sectionals and regionals and the state. If we were to attract that business.
Yeah.
Least important would probably be the asphalt in the parking lot, because that's a big dollar amount.
I agree with you there.
And the playground, that's not really, we never thought it was a good idea for that area.
Right.
I'm
Okay.
trying to think of what else is on there.
It's,
What about the shelter? That pavilion thing, is that?
I'd say that's one, it's a wish list, but it's not a priority. Having somewhere so kids can have shelter, during even today, the heat in between games and things like that. But we've survived now for how many years without it?
Right.
So that's not gonna make it more attractable to any, residents or teams or sectionals or regions.
The-
Tim, we built the kickback wall in that area.
Right.
We built it ourselves.
Oh.
The soccer club.
Well, that was one of the things I was wondering about. Are there things on this list that one or both of the clubs, they're like, these are priorities, but maybe they can handle on their own?
Right.
Or-
which
I
a
mean,
lot of
the,
the stuff we do, we don't even talk about, like we buy the benches,
Right.
buying new nets, buying new goals, sets of goals. We just do it on our own. The club does it.
because to me, it seems like bleachers, that would be an easy one that might be able to get offloaded.
Yeah.
And,
If we can get
Yeah.
the
and
key is the
fundraise.
lights to us.
The light seems to be,
Right.
The
On the
priority.
soccer side, the
Right.
soccer side,
Yes,
the
also,
lights are
yes,
huge.
because I want to accommodate the rec program and global foundries.
Right.
That's the
Okay.
goal for that. And attract other businesses.
I'd heard elsewhere that the protected netting is a big priority. Where does that fall for you guys?
I know softball would love that, like safety of everybody, because especially in the middle where the concession is, where people congregate. I mean, I myself have gotten knocked out. So I think safety wise, that's a big one.
And being town facilities, that concerns me that
Mhm.
we're gonna have somebody, suing us someday. But
Yeah, no, I got knocked out one time.
Well, we're now on notice that there's the risk there.
Yeah.
We kind of have to do something about it.
Yeah, I mean, we extended some of the
the backstops.
backstops, higher to accommodate some of that, but it
I
doesn't
I mean,
solve the problem.
that was my other beef was, when all of a sudden we've got lights to light the field for some state tournament, which we may not get. And yet we don't have enough protective netting to prevent our coaches and leaders from being knocked out. It didn't
Well, the
make a
soccer
lot of
club
sense to
is
me.
Also, I forgot what Andy told me, but like has access to the poles for the softball, put up the right, what company was that?
Berkeley committed to donating the gold and installing them and building the.
For the softball,
for the netting?
for the softball lights.
Oh, for the softball lights, soccer.
Well,
Oh,
no, they're not high
Oh.
enough for soccer, so I don't think,
yeah.
right?
That's what we heard,
They're not
right?
high
We
enough.
talked internally a little bit
Right.
on that, so to adequately like either the softball field or the soccer field, we're talking poles that are 6 and 7 feet, right? So those are secured poles by the manufacturer. Nothing you can really get from NICEAG or National Grid unless it's an aluminum 60-foot tall pole.
So, just from my standpoint on the money, and the improvements that I came into this meeting with, although I try to keep an open mind. As far as the DASNY grant, I mean, the minimum of that with the improvements and all of that, we got the 250. According to this is 648. I think I'm of the impression that if we do all of that, we still really need to do the parking and the pathway lighting just for safety reasons, and that is another 350. I'm rounding them off a little bit.
Yeah.
And then if the safety netting is a concern, that's another 134. So we're up to, over $1 million there. I personally am reluctant to spend much more than that, as much as I understand that lighting the soccer field can be another priority. But, we have other parks and rec concerns, and I hate to spend all of our money on LFTC. We have this plan that the LA group put together, and I'm viewing it as a long-term capital improvement plan, so that as we make improvements, we have a plan. We're not doing willy-nilly this here, this there. And, I would be pretty much committed to saying the next phase could possibly be lighting the soccer fields. Cause like you say, I like the idea of a rec program in Malta for soccer. So that's kind of where I am right now. I'd like to limit our expenditures to those things.
Did you mention the bleachers and the scoreboards?
Well, the bleachers are part of what they
Oh,
have.
so
is
you're
the
okay?
SAM grant.
Oh, right, you're putting
It
them in,
has,
right?
yeah, he's got that. We've got that at 648, which
Yeah,
is the
so what you'd be
three-phase
adding is the
service,
lighting for the
the
parking. lot.
lighting the fields, the electronic scoreboards, and the bleacher system.
Right.
Is there something that I can be looking at here that would help me follow this? I'm looking at this thing called LFAF project funding. Is that the wrong thing?
Yeah,
to-
I think that's the better document to look at, John. And Cynthia, I think if you look at that might be more.
Well, this has all of the
There's-
things
Okay,
itemized.
it's
Well,
got-
this-
This does as
we
well.
looking
This
at
is
this?
the,
That's the one Kevin got.
yeah, the one that
Right.
Kevin, the one that Kevin
What-
sent,
Right.
I think.
I'm
is-
just saying,
John, you on this one?
That's the
one
one
he's
I've been
looking
looking at, but Cynthia's looking at something else.
I'm looking at the original document that we got from the LA group, which is a whole bunch of pages and a bunch of maps, and
Yeah, I think
Kevin
what,
picked stuff out.
I
don't
think what
agree with Kevin's
Kevin's-
picks.
okay, well, I would I mean, if you humor me for a moment, I recommend that we look at Kevin's.
Okay, what's it labeled in
So
here?
these are in the folder. This is the LFAF project funding and cost analysis. And there's two versions.
Right.
There is one that's A and one that's B. And one that shows a total funding sources of 1.387 and costs of the same, and one that's 1.426 and costs of the same.
If there's a way we can work any lights, like doing both projects at the same time.
Well,
it'd be like
what-
a key
right.
thing For me, for if I'm gonna, which I've talked to Liz about, building a rec program for the town. I know how to do it, putting the time and effort, because I'll be, have nothing else to do really.
So here, let me, if
Neither
I
of
can
these
just,
have lighting for the soccer field.
so,
That's
Neither of
on
Kevin's.
page 2.
well, hang on, if I can just walk,
Go ahead.
let me just walk through this just for a minute, and then we could talk about the soccer lighting, because I think there's a couple things to just consider here. So the option A that Kevin's laid out is the less expensive option. That includes the bleacher system, the soft belt protective netting, gravel lot expansion, the phase 3 service lighting, the field 1 softball lighting, the pedestrian and parking lot lighting, the scoreboards for softball, one scoreboard for soccer, which I thought you said, Gary, you didn't need. And the soccer shelter, which it sounds like you said you didn't need.
So that's taking out
So,
$256,000 of that particular proposal and the
and
lighting.
yeah, so if we say in that proposal, if you remove the electronic scoreboard for soccer and the soccer shelter and the bleacher system, that's 60 and 190, that's 250,000.
Right, and the
Right.
lighting for the soccer field is $500,000 according to this, according to the LA group, so.
And so, I mean, that either brings that option cost down significantly without the paving the parking lot, or gives you the option to consider adding the soccer lighting. If you were to go that route. Now, that would mean we would have to convince the state that we, the global we, meaning Miss Scotty's probably, would have to fund bleachers. And
Do you
that
see
would be
that
the
as
only, the bleachers would really be the only thing that was in the grant that wouldn't be covered.
getting the bleacher system too, also 60,000, so, that one.
Is
isn't
there
happening.
any reason why this can't be done in stages?
I think the only consideration will be the grant.
And the other consideration is that if we light,
Talking about the other money also.
if we light the softball field, we got to light the parking lot.
Right.
So, for safety purposes. So that's the only thing that both of them would have to be done at the same time. If we light anything, we got to light the parking lot.
Right. The lighting
I mean,
and the electrical all sort of
we're
goes hand in glove.
talking from the original grant going up over 4 times that amount.
Mhm.
If
5
I
times.
applied for a grant to try to get things that the town needs today, for an example, autos, and I could only get a grant for a quarter of it, you know what? I'd be thrown out of the office in a heartbeat. That's where I'm coming from. Do you need everything right off the bat? No, you don't. The other thing that I have a problem is once it's installed and equipped, then the town has to maintain it going forward. And as we all understand, we have had to rehab certain parks at a great expense out of our pocket going forward. That could be a lot of money, just like the valves and the sprinklers. That happened. And that was a big dollar amount. So
Well, I'm not,
I'm cautious on this.
I understand it, but I think too is like, we just had a fundraiser for the club, like if we knew that we needed to repair the lights and we needed to come up with $20,000, the club would do it. In a heartbeat.
Okay.
It's not a question of maybe.
But I want to ask Tim a question, is the way this whole thing is designed, if we only do the soccer field and the parking lot and the pathways, it's still designed so that it's not that it doesn't need re-engineering to do the soccer fields in sometime in the future.
Yeah, I mean,
the service would be there.
our service to the town is full-time for the soccer field.
Right.
But the electric service that we are applying for the NICEAG, that includes, if you wanted to light 4 softball fields, you have enough power. If you wanted to light more soccer.
The whole
fields, you
park.
have enough.
Okay,
Right.
So the power you're getting from NICEAG is going to cover the whole park, the whole build out.
so that's what I'm saying is we've got this, long-term plan. I would be amenable to seeing this as the first phase. I mean, the very next phase, like I said, Gary, I can see why the soccer field's being lit is, so I'm not saying I want to push that off for 10 years.
Right.
But again, it's something that, I think that we could look at and talk about, maybe look for another grant.
And I'll be the first one to
for
go
some time.
bang that drum
Yeah.
on a grant
Yeah,
for you.
I mean, me too. So,
I guess I'm opposite. I mean, I think soccer, hasn't got the priority in terms of resources over there. And I think they should be given the priority. We're seeing, we're saturated in terms of field use is what you're describing. And there's demand there for, local folks, the potential for a rec league for local kids. I'm interested in soccer.
It's the
I
same
I
thing
mean,
on
the other
I
side.
don't think that we shouldn't continue to support softball, but
Well, we have to in a sense, John.
Yeah.
because The grant that we applied for was for lights, which for
For softball.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I understand that, but we're talking about spending, this number is roughly 1.2 or $1.15 million of money the town controls.
Right.
So I'm very interested in soccer. And again, to spend up to these levels, I want to see some kind of plan that's going to grow the program, for Malta kids in particular. That's what I want to hear about.
I think
I
that's
will
something we can talk
support
about workshops.
youth athletics is my thing. You won't find, I'm a board member. I coach. I coach 2 sports. I spend thousands and thousands of dollars a year because I believe so deeply in the importance of it, especially today. For kids, life is getting more challenging after coming out of COVID. It's, we need to help these kids more than ever. And so I'll be right behind you, but I really want to see the efforts to reach more kids before I'll spend up to $1.4 million.
Tim, if I could ask, please don't get irritated with me because I asked last month, but do you see any way that we could integrate solar somehow into this whole scheme that would help us to shave costs? I mean, I just look at the incentives that are out there right now. They're almost paying you to have solar. And if we could utilize it at all to help bring these costs down, do you see that anywhere as a possibility?
I think realistically, I think even if we were to go some kind of solar power, like whether it's pedestrian or
Parking lot?
Parking lots?
we would still park light. You would still want that park light.
Mm-hmm.
You're bringing power to the facility. I think you want to have the reassurance that you're going to have the infrastructure in place in case you need it. So I don't see how you can construction costs with having solar lights.
Was it considered at all when you're doing your study that possibly we could integrate solar somehow, or?
To be honest, it wasn't. So I think on our end, we can revisit that and get back to the list and have
Mhm.
some preliminary findings, but just again, off the cuff, I think whatever we do, we're getting three-phase power to the site, which is something,
Mhm.
We needed for.
Right,
a
I
long
get
time.
that.
So to me, I want to take advantage of that infrastructure and just get everything in the ground. Long-term costs, the light department facilities for one night, we mentioned this a month ago, it's about $4.50 a night. To light the soccer field, I believe was in the $30 to $40 range. To light the softball field was in the $20. So you're not talking huge operational costs. Costs here, obviously.
But wouldn't a lot of it be startup and actual material costs because of the incentives today that are out there? Where you're shaving a lot of your costs right there through not having to really pay astronomical fees for materials. Because especially in the state of New York, they want you to try to utilize solar at every turn if you can.
Are you talking about not wiring it then, Mark?
Well, I'm talking
No, you have
about
to wire
not
it still.
discarding it totally. I mean, if it's a possibility, I would be really comfortable hearing someone that's an expert in the field of solar power, what it would cost us to utilize that, both at the startup through material cost, in addition to the operational costs. And I'm just curious. I don't know. Admittedly, I'm not an expert in that field, but I'd like to hear from somebody that is. That's just my opinion.
I think what he's trying to say is that there's a lot of grants available in that area.
Exactly.
If we can take advantage of it to expand our grant that we started with, to possibly join up with some other grants to get to the final solution on it. He's just exploring this. He's not saying
Exactly.
this is the way to go, but he's trying to open up and finding out where we can get other funding. as where other towns have, other corporations have. I'm not saying they're best solutions, but they didn't get so focused on the end result. They were thinking of where can we get other grants from?
Yes.
Even if it is a smaller solar field that lit the parking lot.
Can,
Would that help us? It might.
can
We
we,
could revisit this maybe like, we do the upgrade for the power, which is like 170,000, the lighting for the softball field, and then the soccer field, and then the parking lot. And let the
So-
club,
Yeah,
two clubs pick up, hey, if they're gonna put scoreboards, we'll
Yeah.
put a scoreboard up for softball 1 year, and then 2 years after that, put another scoreboard up,
I think that makes a heck of a lot of sense. I think the only thing that we have to figure out is how that
which we're.
wiggles
our
with the
grant.
grant.
Yeah.
You know, we have to
Right.
just make sure that
The power
we,
was On the grant.
yeah. I
What-
think as
what
long
is
as we
the-
go
what are
back
power
we-
to
was
the-
not on the grant.
I think
to-
as
to
long
the-
as we go back to the state and say that here's, and I, obviously Kevin is good at managing that stuff. And I think we just need to get aligned with, here's what we're able to pay for and what the clubs think that they can carry. And maybe that's how that gets phased in.
We have fundraisers.
Right.
Wh-
And
what
and
are we-
recognizing that, you know, that you're not then maybe able to get 4 scoreboards next year, you get them over the course of several years. And perhaps that's a better way to skin some of these cats, because if the clubs are doing the scoreboards, then perhaps it's not the cost that the town bears and it's able to leverage these at a better rate. We're able to maybe even drive some sponsorship dollars associated with them, as the clubs are able to do much better than the town is. So
what are
I think
we
that's the
obligated
way.
for under the grant now? I think we need to start there and then
Go
build
back.
up.
The grant is for softball field lighting on field 1, 4 scoreboards, scoreboard on each softball field, bleachers on 4 softball fields.
And
And
we have to have the utility upgrade in order to do that. That total
And the-
number, according to LA Group, is 648,800 or 87.
So for,
$650,000.
so for the $250,000, the town has to
Then
put in-
650.
put in $400,000.
Correct.
If I can, something that I would agree is a compromise too, but I'm not particularly comfortable with it just because of the sheer numbers. If you look at Kevin's option 2, if we're using that,
Is it B or A, Cynthia?
I guess
Because
it's
that's
B.
how.
It's the one that's 1.4.
Mhm.
So I don't know if it's B or A.
That's the one I'm looking at.
Right,
Yeah.
okay, he includes the asphalt parking lot, which is 355.
Mhm.
If we eliminate that, the LA Group's estimate for lighting the primary soccer field is 450. Then we would be taking an extra, can't believe I'm saying a mere, but another $100,000 out of the fund balance. So Kevin's recommending that we take out 222 for this option, which includes paving the parking lot. If we eliminate paving the parking lot, I think it has everything. It has everything required for the DASNY grant, including does it have the protective netting, which I think is important? And it has the pedestrian and parking lighting.
Is that number
Well-
correct? It's $348,000 to light the parking lot and the walkways? That number just blows my mind.
Yeah, so, and Alyssa and Kevin also question that. That process. So that number, like the parking lot, commercial town code, or the candles, the height of the fixture, and it also includes lighting, pedestrian space, when somebody getting out of their car, 20 point of destination. So we had talked at last meeting, trying to value engineer that number and utilize some secondary lighting off of the taller recreation sport field poles. Have the 60 or 70 foot tall rec pole, but we could possibly mount a light fixture attached to that.
Right. I remember, yes.
So we had estimated roughly saving, bringing that number down to around 150. But again.
We
now
could
more just kind of
Cut
conceptual.
200,000 off that number? Okay, well, why would we want to
Well,
do
there you
that and
go.
light the
Then we like the
soccer?
soccer field.
yeah.
But the caveat there was some of that was not being So
What is the town code? The town doesn't have a lighting standard. It's the building code lighting standard, right?
the town code has a lighting standard for full light, foot candle. There's something specific
For athletic fields?
Recreation lights for lighting ancillary areas.
I-
So
Well, hang on a
And
second,
can-
hang on a second. The town code has a lighting standard that we adopted, the town board adopted, different from the New York State Fire Prevention and Building Code, the international code. We have a more rigorous lighting requirement.
I am just going by what's on your town code.
Okay, well, can we talk about what happens at all the other athletic fields in the world? Is this lighting standard applied? Do other parking lots at all the lighting, all the athletic fields you've worked on light to this level? Why would we consider doing that?
Yes.
They do.
Yes. It might not
This is,
be in your
why don't-
town code, but
when you go to Half Moon, when you go to Saratoga Springs, which lights their fields, are they lighting to that standard? Okay.
Well, let me offer a suggestion. If there is if our code is perhaps more stringent than it needs to be here, that is driving a cost that is perhaps unnecessary, and that is some guidance that you could provide us here. I don't want to speak on behalf of my colleagues, but I think that would be very, very welcome policy guidance. Okay.
yeah, we're meeting your code. This is how much it is. If you don't want to do this, we can do X, Y, Z. But understand it's not.
So I would strongly encourage if by our next meeting, if you could offer some guidance on whether a less stringent code would be appropriate and still safe. And I think we might entertain changes to our code if that were the case. And I would, to Gary's point, if removing the electronic scoreboards from the project and offering that the clubs would pursue funding those alternatively, rather than funded through this project, could bring that cost down by another 100,000. I think that might also be a way to perhaps make this more tenable, because it sounds like if we were to adjust our code and remove this component, we could bring this project cost down by $300,000, which I think would be preferable to all of us.
Well, Tim, like other fields that I might work at, we've installed solar lights that just turn on, I mean,
Right.
and they're very safe, I mean.
And perhaps with a different type of code, maybe something like what the deputy supervisor suggested could come into play.
solar lights,
I don't
but
know, but
or not the walkways. That's what we do.
yeah,
The rec program I work.
One other thing where that cost comes down now is that we're eliminating certain items here that were in the program, like the playground, the shelter. So those items go away. So the pathway, the lighting that connected the parking lot to those items. that-
see, now you're getting us
So that-
excited.
Right,
You're-
so that number
you're
comes
sharpening
down
your
anyway.
pencil.
Now, lighting is priority.
Right.
So I think now from our standpoint, really our estimate.
Yeah.
Based on this conversation, come back to the board one more time. Hopefully then at that point, we're gonna have a clear number.
Yeah.
Right.
I think we're building momentum here.
I have a question also, not to backtrack, but if some of these projects are done, is the parking adequate as we have now, or are we going to come back years after the fact and say, wait a minute, we got to get more parking
The parking's not adequate
to
now.
make it safe?
10
Right.
years, so it is safe because people are parking on the side of the road and walking on the
Oh.
walkway. So 10 years from now, maybe we should have moved the sidewalk up and then have parking spots right on the road. I think that's way down the road. That's. something
Okay.
10 years from now.
I'm just hearing like state tournaments and
No.
how
because
we're gonna
they drop off at
park
the-
them
the
and,
state
like,
tournaments, they
people are
drive
telling
up
me
and
that I'm
drop-
crazy,
drops off, and they go over and
Right,
park, and they
right.
have other parking spots in this businesses.
How is the state tournament decided as to where it
Quality-
is?
the Quality of the
Facility.
facility, we're one of the top facilities in the state.
There's a big list.
List,
You
yeah.
have to get buy-in from the school district. Yeah, there's a huge list. And currently we don't qualify.
I have heard that it's,
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
it was me, but there is college girls softballs, Division II, I think it is, that has played over there. And his response to me from the coach is that it's a very good field and it's up to his standards as it is now.
We host the regionals, the New York State regionals. We just haven't gone to the state level yet. So the regional playoffs are, right before the state playoffs, and we do host those regularly.
On Craig's parking question, though, if we have all of our fields in use, to the extent you can reasonably program them, is there enough parking there? Forget about like tournament play, but if
There's never
if-
enough
No,
parking.
there's
not.
never,
Well, that's where if we painted the lines in the parking lot, we could provide, 30 or 4 more spaces, but we don't park the lines in the parking lot. We could do that at the beginning of the year. We could put lines down. But a lot of people park on the road. It's not a problem. Plenty of parking on the road.
I have heard that.
Yeah.
If I can just make one comment and then I have another question. It's kind of unrelated to the project. First of all, I'm not willing to move forward with lighting that doesn't meet our town code.
Right.
And if we're going to wait until we change the code, we'll be building this thing in about, 2028. So, I think we've got to design it to meet our code. The other thing is we got an inquiry from the Roundabout Runners Club about joining the, Paul Loomis. Has
The
he
joint
has he
state
approached you about joining the MAA? What sort of process is there for other groups to be?
Paul has never.
He's never approached
required
you?
in Joining the MAA. because
He
the very-
did to us, right?
No,
Didn't he? To the town board? Didn't we get an inquiry about
he
him
never
wanting to?
asked me as the
Okay.
president of the Malta Athletic Association of joining.
We got it. We got the letter. Yes,
So he's-
definitely. I thought you had it.
Never
Yeah.
addressed the
So he
Malta.
should reach out to you. I should
He should've
advise him
gone
to
to you
call
then
you.
instead.
Okay,
So the way, because the Malta Athletic Association runs the park,
right,
and then any issues,
right.
we address it with Terry or Alyssa.
He wants to be able to use it basically so that they can host big cross-country tournaments on the,
But he's running through the trails.
Right,
that the town
right.
doesn't own. So that's a whole different issue. with
right, but
insurance.
he,
And I told him that, and Alyssa knows this, I said, you need to send me an application with your certificate of insurance for the town and for the Malta Athletic Association. And I said, you need to do this. This is an important key. You're
It is.
saying you're running through the park, but then you're deciding to use the bathrooms and you guys are jogging on the fields as a warm down. You're using the town park.
Right.
You have to have
I don't
insurance.
think he has a problem with it.
Yes.
Yeah.
But he
Right.
never approached me joining him.
I think he sent a letter to the town board.
Right. Okay, and would you have any
Ah,
objection to that if?
Okay.
We used to host cross-country.
Mhm.
They used to rent the fields,
Right.
cross-country. That was back when we had 2 softball fields, because there's regulations, there has to be a certain length of straightaway. And as soon as we built those other 2 softball fields, they weren't, no longer in regulation for a cross-country meet, as far as I was concerned.
He wanted to run through the softball field. And
Okay,
I talked with Alyssa, that's not appropriate, that's not.
Like with the
town,
gate
there's
open?
Cement, that's not an appropriate place really. You know, the park is great, he's worked tremendously.
Oh, yeah,
The
yeah.
trails are great.
Yeah,
man.
trails.
Yeah.
if,
But it
If
sounds
something
like
worked out,
that with the
you-
letter, you guys will just have to connect and
Right.
we can.
and
we
the,
can-
the
you
payment
guys can
plan
talk and
over
figure
time
something
wouldn't
out.
necessarily be an issue for you guys, the
Can-
membership.
No, probably not.
Okay,
Can
would
we,
Definitely have
We
to
would
talk
seek
about
the
that.
advice.
Right.
Yeah.
From obviously you guys.
right.
That was,
I don't do anything unless I talk to Alyssa on who's renting and stuff, I always double check.
Yeah, okay.
So
that-
it
like I
sounds
said,
like on that issue, it'd be good for Alyssa to talk to them and sure.
Get,
Right.
right.
And Darren, are we winding this conversation down from,
Sorry.
no.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want
Okay.
to cut anybody off.
The
but-
one thing that I would ask is somebody look at what our lighting standard is and why it is so rigorous and whether it's appropriate for parking at an athletic field.
Right.
Jamie, can you speak to that at all? I mean, not to put you on the spot, but I mean, mhm. Too stringent. Okay.
It just seems incongruous to me that the town of Malta should have a extra special lighting code that the rest of the state of New York doesn't have. Given how rigorously the state of New York regulates construction, why Malta has one. We haven't had anybody in my tenure with the town board who had the expertise to prescribe such a more strenuous lighting code. So where did it come from? Why do we have it? Does it really make sense
It
in this
was enacted in
situation?
2017.
Tony Tazi was working some magic back there. We didn't know about.
I never said it was gonna go for the street. I said it was designed to be a code. And I think one thing to keep in mind, the size of that parking area is over an acre. So, I mean, it's a big area.
Right.
Obviously, you understand it's a big recreation field. There's a lot of areas that need to be lit. And again, if they're trying to meet a code, it requires a certain amount of light. That's how we can affect it.
So I think what you're hearing from all of us though, is I think Jamie, Alyssa and Tim, like, let's make sure we just get our heads together on this lighting code and provide us the best guidance you can here. If there is an adjustment that needs to be made, I think it's important, whether it's quick or not, it sounds like we need to address it. And if not, let's give us some guidance here because it seems to not make sense.
One concluding remark, since I've been so pushy and dominating, is I just want to say thank you for taking a beautiful summer night and coming out to try and work through this. It is a lot of money. It's important. I hope you can overlook my perhaps inquisitive tone. I'm very supportive. And I just want to make sure we get it right.
The only last two things, Cynthia, if you want to be here at some point to go over all the, like.
I would like to. I was actually just looking to see if I have phone numbers on here. Yeah.
And I wish we would record this, but a lot of times they'll say, and Andy will attest to this, they'll say someone on the soccer club will like, why is that team practice playing up there? Like, that's a team with Clifton Park and Boston Spa, and are they paying for the fields to the club? And I constantly, every time we have a club meeting, I go to a club meeting, I say, I just have to let you know, when we go to Luther Forest Fields, those are the town fields.
Right.
And the person that runs those town fields is the Malta Athletic Association, and that's the two of us.
Yeah.
And if there's any scheduling problems or ever, I immediately, and same thing with
Yeah.
Paul. I've told him many times, just talk to Alyssa and we can work
Yeah.
something out. We're not gonna charge you for a full field just to jog
Right,
and warm down. That's, even though that's in our thing, we'll do so, but I
Yeah.
said the insurance is the key.
right.
Constantly said that.
I also-
And with the high school team,
Yeah.
they have a summer program and they run on those
Oh.
trails. And I said to Matt Durham, he's the cross country coach, the key is the insurance.
Yeah.
You gotta have the insurance before you step on that field. For the town of Malta and for Malta Athletic, those are the key things in scheduling anyone there or renting. There's always, and we always take
Yeah.
outside groups if it doesn't click with the
With-
town program.
Right.
Okay,
I just
got
want to
it.
reiterate that I'm not trying to micromanage it. I just want to understand. I got enough to do, so,
Every time
yeah.
I go to the
Yeah.
club, someone says, oh, someone
Yeah.
else is using our, I'm like, they're not.
Right,
Those
right.
are the town
Yeah.
fields that we run and maintain and take care of.
And thank you for that. I know
And
you're all
and
volunteers. and
importantly,
it's important.
long-term with the MAA, we're really, our ultimate goal needs to be over the next 20 years is figure out how we get the Hartsel Ice Rink built.
That's right.
So that on hot nights like this, we'll be meeting
With
there.
lights and refrigeration under there. Absolutely.
You wanna meet for a half hour or something? I'd love-
Yeah.
Because the bylaws too, if they need to be changed. if anything
Yeah.
needs to be
Yeah,
changed, too.
okay, yeah.
So, Gary-
Those were written before we even became an entity.
Yeah.
Well, I was actually going to ask if those bylaws were still in effect, because I think it's
Yeah.
2011.
Gary, I've
Yeah.
got one more question real
Sure.
quick. So this mower that you're gonna use, do you want self-propelled? Or are you looking for the full burn without self-propelled?
Oh, you want a power
He's
mower,
going
not
for that
just a push
solar
thing?
again, I
Then
think.
we can start a workout gym and then everybody gets to take a chance. to take turn while-
You can get back to us on that too, Gary.
Okay, thanks, Patty, Gary, Andrew, thank you very much. I really appreciate
Yeah,
it.
thanks
We'll
for
work
time.
on these things and,
Yes.
you know,
thank
during the week,
guys.
we'll be talking to Tim. Thank you very much, Tim. And we'll be moving on to the next item on our agenda. Thank you very much.
Thanks again for coming in.
Thanks, guys.
Oh, yes.
Okay, Old Post. Roger, any update on that?
I called the engineer, Chris, for the staff meeting last week. and Courtesy could meet with me is normally at 7 o'clock.
Okay,
So I don't know if Chris is gonna be there or if he's sending somebody. The way I look at it, it's probably doable for us, but they sent me a plan that I can read on the computer because the computer screen is grades on it. They asked me, so we're gonna have a meeting tomorrow, I'd say.
okay, and this is designed to see if we can, you know, find a way to avert the eminent domain procedure and you know, work this out with Roger's team, you know, doing some of the work with the conduit and the catch basin
So
to
that
bring it across the
We
street.
may actually avoid the eminent domain proceedings.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's
That-
the
that's
plan. I mean,
certainly
it's
favorable.
ongoing. I mean, it's
Right.
there, it's moving. I mean,
Right.
we haven't missed any deadlines or anything like that. The papers have filed or whatever. But if we can do this, you know, with some contribution from Roger, that'd be great. Okay, so
Hey, Roger.
next week on Tuesday, then Roger, hopefully we'll be able to have some more information.
When you have something, could you make sure we all say it afterwards?
Yes, we'll get
So
it.
The town board sees what happened tomorrow.
Yeah, Roger, you
As
can
a
either email
result.
the whole board, or if you email me, that's fine. I'll forward it to the board. Any other questions on Old Post? Okay, the next item on the agenda is 12 Hearn. This is a stipulation of settlement to, you know, carry out the, you know, the understanding that the lawsuit would be dismissed if the zoning were changed to that, to what it is now. So this proposed stipulation that Leah sent to us does that. And so this will be on the agenda for action next week on Tuesday. Okay, COVID update. I guess the first thing is, would anybody like to get rid of these plastic things?
Yeah, these are
Yeah.
a real
Okay.
impediment.
I don't know. I might get Tim's cooties.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm down here on the end all by myself.
Feel more secure.
The emergent,
When you tried putting a roof and a back door.
the emergency, you know, orders and stuff are all, you know, expired and stuff. So, you know, we have to move to regular meeting. And so what we were discussing during the week is going back to our original meetings here in the room, except that we would stream it. So we wouldn't take input over Zoom or over internet or whatever, but anyone who wanted to watch in the whole world could watch it in our YouTube channel or
No
whatever.
capacity
Do we have to
limitations.
do that? I mean, I know we all have to be in person, but we can't take input from people via Zoom.
No, I think we could. I mean, if that's what the board wants to do, but my preference would be to have people who want to participate unless they're disabled or something here.
Okay.
I mean, the board obviously may have its own.
Is there any
ideas on that.
capacity limitation in effect other than the fire code for the audience any longer then?
I think the answer is no.
Okay. I think there's people anxious to come back to meetings because I think they feel they get our attention better if it's in person.
Yep.
We can see the emotion in their expression as they're telling their point of view.
Yep. Okay, so that's the plan. Alyssa, is there anything we have to address on COVID with the community center or anything like that? We're good on that.
Could I ask Darren, we're still, I lose track easily. We're still required to follow CDC guidelines. What constraints are there in effect now for any programs since the state's rules are no longer applicable?
I don't think we're required to follow CDC guidelines. I mean, I think we do, right? I mean, that's the idea for our summer rec programs and stuff.
Yeah, so at the community center right now, fully vaccinated members not wear masks. Unvaccinated still required to wear masks. Our summer camp does not need to follow guidelines.
And the rule you just recited is where does that come from? CDC? Okay.
So our summer camp does not need to follow any formal guidelines, so we have to help with places not let rails, there are small groups that don't intermingle. So some businesses are not taking out quarantine. Still a thing.
And what about field trips?
Kids are wearing masks? They're not. Okay. 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 On a day like today, God bless them.
Yep.
And
Wow.
staff,
And our
staff,
staff members, the fully vaccinated do not need to wear masks.
But correct me if I'm wrong, Steve, but my understanding is CD guidelines are just that, guidelines. And I don't think they are now incorporated through the state or executive order into a requirement on municipalities. But I think it makes lots of sense to follow the CDC guidelines. And so that's what we've been doing.
Yeah, I agree with that position, Darren.
Okay, thanks, Steve. All right, anything else on COVID protocols?
Keep washing your hands.
Yep. Okay. Summer hours. Raylene, you still with us?
I am here. Can you hear me?
Okay. One of the things we kind of talked about during the week with Raylene was, some problems we've had in staffing, all of the hours that the town hall is open during July and August, especially now that we've had some, people out and pregnancy and all that kind of stuff. And Raylene expressed the idea, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Raylene, of in July and August, having the town hall hours, at least for one or two departments, something in the neighborhood of 8 to 4 instead of 8 to 5. Do I have that right, Raylene?
Yes, that's correct. What I did was I asked Jen Holmes to get a hold of a couple of other town halls to see what they're doing for summer hours, if they're doing anything different. And most of them are doing some sort of hybrid closing at various times during the summer months. This obviously would be with the understanding that, our staff still needs to get in the required hours. It's just that during July and August, summer months, the summer's very short. My office in particular, that's our probably most quiet time of the year when you can get out and enjoy the summer, what there is of it.
and you're a man down right now.
And I'm a man down, which seems to be the case. This is the fourth child that would be born out of my office. I don't know what it is, but my office seems to be the one where the babies are born. So
Staying away from your office.
yeah, stay away from there, will you?
I have no problem with it as long as the department heads that it affects, like sounds Raylene is for it. you know, and as long as, like, say, the clerk's office or building and planning, if somebody needs to come in after 4 o'clock,
Oh, sure.
you'll make accommodations for.
Well, that's the
for
same thing
that.
with our office. If, you know, anybody needed to see us after 4 o'clock, that's not a problem. It's just like I said, you know,
Right.
from that hour from 4 to 5 o'clock during the summer months, there's, you know, there's nothing going on there that, I would
No.
feel like we needed to
There's-
be there till 5 o'clock, but I would
There's
make
no
sure that,
assessment emergencies in July and August?
no, there's not. But I would again, make sure that, you know, my staff that's working, that's there is going to get their hours done.
Yeah, this wouldn't be a change in any hours for any
No.
town employee. They would
No.
all remain exactly the same.
Okay.
So I think we'd want to hear from Jen and Jamie in terms of their departments. I mean, you know, we can't, if Jen goes to those hours, then the front door needs to be locked, irrespective of, some of us will be here till 5 no matter what, but
Darren, I'm not hearing much of this. Can you restate what the proposal is so that we can all hear it?
basically, I think the proposal is for July and August going down to 8 to 4 instead of 8 to 5. At least for assessment, you know, at least for the assessing office. And we'd want to hear from Jen and Jamie as to the other two, because these are the three offices that people come in to see.
The
basically.
hours that the office would be open.
Yes.
Would be 8 to 4.
Right.
Okay. We set hours, right, at the beginning of the year for all.
Yeah, this would have to be a resolution.
Okay. And we're talking about doing it only for one department.
Well, we're talking about either 1, 2, or 3, or locking the door at 4. So all of those subjects are, there's no specific proposal. It's just, you know, Raylan's idea that, and I think Jen, you had some of the same concerns, or am I wrong? Yeah, I think if your office was closed at 4 or 4:30, whatever, we'd have to lock that front door when your office is not staffed. I think that's probably pretty important. How would that sit with your office, Jamie?
I mean, the thing about us is biggest problem is we probably on Friday. And so we don't allow people to. So, you know, to some degree, we can still be able to provide no matter what. Now, if it's on Fridays, we're gonna call. Then it's on Fridays, we're at 4:30. Locking the building doesn't bother me a bit because it's coming out. Down here, or ask questions, and obviously we need to make an appointment, but you know, my guys are on their own schedule, they're gone at 4:30, fire nurses are part-time, day shift, so it's really planning for Victoria and I.
So what you're saying is you'd be able to accommodate the needs of builders, homeowners,
Right.
even if the building was closed, because we would let them in if we're here, they would just have to call us or whatever. Jen, do you have anything to add on this? I mean, what's your sense in terms of staffing till 5, or, you know, how much easier during July?
In all honesty, I figured more than likely the town clerk's office would still maintain an 8 to 5 Monday through Thursday. And if we didn't have appointments after 4, I'm flexible.
Okay.
I think that I support it, and I don't see any reason why not, as long as everybody's getting the hours in they need and there's not work being, you know, left aside. I mean, we already know that, you know, we got the best team in, you know, Saratoga County that'll do their jobs the best they can, so. And if we start getting a lot of complaints from residents, I mean, do you find your office is busier from 4 to 5 anyway, or you just same all the time? Yeah. So I'm not opposed to it. So,
And Ray Lynn had stated, I think, that between 4 and 5, it's ghost town
oh,
many times.
I mean, before today, I just took a quick check at Half Moon and Clifton Park. Their town hall is open 8 hours. You know, it's either 8 to 4 or 9 to 5. For 8 to 4 for Half Moon, 9 to 5 for Clifton Park. So, you know, and that's what the website said. I didn't check
Yeah.
with Kevin or Phil.
Yeah, there seems to be, you know, a lot of the different town halls have different things going on, like Wilton. their clerk takes Fridays off and their deputy clerk takes Mondays off during the summer. You know, Moreau's open 8 to 4 year round, but all of their employees are 35 hours. So, you know, every town seems to do something different during the summer months.
Okay, so I guess what we'll have a proposal for the board for next week,
Yep.
next Tuesday. And I think the proposal will at the very least include closing Ray Lynn's office at 4 during July and August. And then, you know, we'll have a conversation with Jen and Jamie and figure out what, if anything, we're going to add for their offices. Does that sound good to the
Great.
board? Okay.
Is the building department, do they work Rogers hours? Who else is involved? What other folks are potentially affected?
Kevin, the supervisor.
Does the building department work? I'm sorry, I mean the maintenance department, our
Oh.
maintenance department. What hours do they work?
Oh, Terry's people get here very early. I know that.
I think it's 6 to
Yeah.
2 or something like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, we'll have that. We'll have that for the board next week.
In 2 weeks.
No, next week,
We're meeting
Tuesday.
on July 5th.
Tuesday,
6th.
6th.
Oh, July 6th. Okay. Well, that actually makes my day.
Okay, thanks. All right, Hazardous Waste Day. We are hooking up with Clifton Park again this time for September 25th, which to have Hazardous Waste Day, and Jen is working out the arrangements with, you know, her contact over in Clifton Park, and so we'll be publicizing that and, you know, give people an opportunity to get rid of their oil paint, etc. And we'll have a resolution for the board next week on that. Okay, I think Jane has sent in a letter seeking approval to attend the court conference. It is at it's in Albany, right? It's just that she is the president and has all kinds of duties both in the day and at night, and kind of needs to be there. And so this is a request for approval to pay for her at the Desmond to approve that conference. Jane is a terrific employee for the town and also a big asset for statewide clerks. And this is an important conference. And so that is why we're putting this application into the board.
We don't have to ask if the town justice supports this, do we? We know his answer. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're lucky to have her. Yeah.
She doesn't get credit when she teaches? Boy, that's totally different with CLE. In CLE, you get double the credit if you teach it.
Oh,
Okay.
surprise with you attorneys.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is the Oats Committee. And Mark, what do we got going on there?
We have Deborah Mulry, a Malta resident, and she's attended one of our meetings. Lovely woman, very passionate about what all of us on Oats Committee are, and that is to try to preserve as much open space and agriculture and trails as we can within the town. So I have asked for her bio. I've not gotten that yet. I wanted to forward that to the rest of the board, but I have not gotten that as of yet. But she's phenomenal and very passionate, as I said, about what we do. So I would ask that we appoint her to a committee that we've lost, I think, 2 or 3 members over the last several years. So we're already down in a deficit in terms of our roster.
Sounds good. Okay, so that'll be on for next week.
Just the one, Mark. It says new
It's
members.
just one. It's
Okay.
just one, Tim. Yeah.
Just want to be sure there. Sounds good.
Okay, and we'll have a few budget transfers next week. Kevin is on vacation this week, so he's not here to answer questions, but it doesn't look too extensive here. All right, any other comments or questions from town residents? Nothing, Jamie?
Not even Kathy?
All right. We put the next item on the agenda just in case we needed executive session, but I have no need for one because there hasn't been developments needing one. But if any other member of the board wants one, now would be the time. I think we're good on that. Still no hands raised, Jamie? Okay,
Move
do we have a
adjourn.
motion to adjourn? Discussion?